Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Wednesday, June 3rd, and it's just before 5 o'clock. So let's go ahead and get started with today's recap. Another big day for the market, big rally continuation. I put in here, this market is hot, hot. So I will give you, as always, my assessment of the market. I've got some good things to say. So I've got some positives and I've got some negatives. And well, not negatives, but I always feel like I'm a little bit of a Debbie Downer sometimes in these videos. But I will tell you both sides, and I will tell you how I'm playing this market as usual, and I will give you all the trades that we did and some of the trades that I'm looking at for tomorrow as well. But I think it's important, right, to kind of go over just overall, not be 100% positive, 100% negative, but just kind of give you a sense of what I'm thinking about in terms of this market. So, first of all, I'll go with the positive. Usually, and again, it's not bad news, but it'll come out maybe a little bit negative. But so the S&P, right? So we're looking at another big update, up 1.3% for the day. We're continuing to grind higher. The Nasdaq made new highs today, right? I believe the Qs, very very close to making an all-time high in the Qs. So we're basically right there with this. I will tell you, as always, I'm not going to anticipate when there's a sell signal. I'm going to try as much as possible to continue with the trend, follow the trend, and of course be smart and accumulate more of a cash balance as I'm going along here, right? So I mean, there's a lot of euphoria right now in the market. We've talked about how I think sentiment is way in front of over the tips of its skis right now. We've talked about some things, but these crazy moves can go on for a long time. So I'm trying to basically stay out of my own way in terms of what I think is going on here, which I think the market has just kind of gone up a little bit too far. But we're still basically, there's no sell signal in the market. We closed very close to the highs again. Do I think at some point we're going to get a pullback and we're due for a pullback? Absolutely. But at the same point, if you could have, I could have said this, and I've been saying this now for over a week. We were talking about this in the trading room that, hey, you could have said that we were overbought and we were due for a pullback a week ago, and look at us continue to grind higher. And I think a lot of people have been saying that, over and over, that this market has gone up too far, yada yada yada. I think the more that you can basically be objective and follow the trend and just follow the prices and forget everything else that's going on, I think is where the money is made. Now, of course, you also have to be a little bit prudent too and say, as far as we've been going, do you want to be starting a lot of new trades here? Or if you are, how are you sizing those? And I think that's the important, and that's the little adjustments and tweaks that you can make. But again, the thing that I've showed a couple times in these videos is that price continues when price is above the short-term moving averages, which it is. I try to stay with it as much as possible, and then I try to, if things change, then I change. I'm not going to catch the top because I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody has a crystal ball and knows when this is going to stop. So I will, of course, make some adjustments once we see a sell signal. Now, something like we start the day higher and we end up closing on the lows, where we dip below the 5-period moving average, right, which is the gray line that I'm highlighting here. When price is above here, I want to stay with it. And again, I want to be prudent here, and I'll show you, some of the trades. So what I do when something like this happens, you could see, the first 15 minutes of the day, I'm taking exiting Texan, right? So this was a trade that we talked about yesterday. Really, really nice move. And these moves are so fast, too. I mean, this is a big gap up. Do I think this Texas can go a little bit higher? I do. I'm content with making the profits that I made. I also talked about in yesterday's video this 129 virgin point of control. It's close enough for me, and I'm happy in one day, right? Putting on a trade for 630 and taking it off for $10. Could I get 11 or 12? Yeah, maybe, but I'm content with making the bulk of the money with that. Xilinx was a trade that we talked about yesterday. I did take a target in this one. I'm leaving it on because I think Xilinx has a chance to continue to go, even though it closed basically, up 2.5%. There's a VPOC up here at 98. That's probably where I'll look to take another target if I could stay in the trade, and barring anything else that I'm seeing on the tape. GoDaddy, that's a trade that we talked about too yesterday. So I tried like a little bit of a. So here's a good example. So CTSH, because sometimes you just don't know which trades are going to work well and which ones are not. Because a lot of times the option activity will kind of look similar. An aggressive call buyer comes on in the tape and it's repeat activity. But you have to kind of pick and choose and realize that not every trade is going to work. So again, I only want to play the best trades. And if I put on one that doesn't work, and to me it's not the best setup, I just take it off. We'll find another trade. So this thing, and that's the problem is there was, as I say a lot of times that sometimes calls hit the tape and the stock's already up about 3% on the day, and then you have to decide if you're going to chase or not. So this one I decided to chase, but I decided to get out of this one. There's nothing wrong with the chart. It just doesn't jump off the page to me. And right now, if it doesn't jump off the page to me in terms of a great setup, I don't want it. There's plenty of other trades right now that we're doing. So I took this trade off. So I did take one target in it. I said maybe a day trade. I took one, again, small target. I even said I'm impatient here. I took a small target. And then I just decided to take the trade off at the end of the day. So again, this is what I'm talking about. I'm giving you examples of you don't have to be in every trade. If it doesn't work, and if it doesn't move up, there's so many trades that we're seeing right now that are going ballistic right off the bat. And I think there's no reason to kind of stick in a trade and kind of say, "Oh, geez, well, I don't want to admit that I'm wrong. I'm not going to take it off." Just wait for the next trade. A lot of buying in the casinos today. So again, you had to chase these up too, but look at this movement. I mean, these names, when they catch, the momentum is pretty crazy. We'll talk about Boeing in just a second. Boeing is still going up after hours. But something like this, out of all the consolidation, we saw calls in Wynn, we saw calls in all of them, Las Vegas Sands, all small bites basically, but some repeat activity. MLCO saw some calls. And again, if you catch these things early, where if you see calls right away and you pull up a chart and realize how much digestion it's been in, I think they're worth a shot. I mean, the one that I took was this Red Rock Resorts because, again, I saw that, okay, everything else is going ballistic. Somebody bought calls in this. It's worth a shot. And I hit 2 targets on it right away. And now I can kind of stick with the balance. And we'll see what it does. And again, I've locked in profits on the trade. So to me, like, that is the way that's how I basically want to function right now in this market, right? So I hit 185, then I hit another one. I think at RRR. So there should be another one at 205. I think I hit somewhere in here. Maybe I didn't post it. I know I posted it on the private Twitter feed, but I did hit a target at 205, and now I'm just basically messing with the profits on this. Zoom, this was a trade that we put earnings trade on yesterday. I was looking to fade the move. I did a iron condor on the trade. That trade is working fine. Baba was a trade name that I talked about yesterday, talking about how it just broke out. So something like this, right, where it just starts to get going out of a range, like that's kind of what I'm looking for right now. And Baba closed again on the highs today. So again, remember yesterday I had a day trade on with options. I converted it to stock, and now I'm going to let this thing see where it goes. Because again, the phrase that I keep saying is like bottled up. Baba's been bottled up for a long time. Also, before I get into kind of like some of the other names, I almost forgot to talk about international. How much is this DAX up now this week? I was happy that Jim Cramer talked about this on his show yesterday because nobody seems to be really talking about what's going on in international. But EWG, look at the move that the Germany ETF. Now, they just announced a whole bunch of stimulus, but I think that may be what the market was running up into. Germany to temporarily lower value-add tax until the end of 2020. So, the spigots are still on, right, in terms of liquidity. All these central banks are easing. Eventually, like, and that's something to watch. That could be like a clue when Powell speaks and he changes his tone about all the money that they're pouring in, all the liquidity that they're throwing into the market. When they start to say that there's going to start tightening, that will probably also be something that I'm thinking about in terms of that will probably cool down this market a bit. But we haven't heard that yet. But I would imagine it's coming at some point. If this market keeps going up, one of these central bankers are going to say something. They're going to say that, hey, we're getting the equities have gone pretty far, right? That's coming. You know that that's going to happen if the market keeps rallying, right? So, so yeah. So I mean, I think it's really impressive. And again, it doesn't get much attention because everybody's focused on the U.S. and not on international. But this is important stuff. When we come in and the DAX is up 3%, what do you think's going to happen here in the U.S.? The DAX. Oops, let me get out of here. I'll switch screens here. But take a look. I mean, this is now up almost 8% in 2 days. So that's very very extreme. All right, so a couple other trades just to kind of give you some more examples. The UAL. So here's how I'm thinking about like some of these trades that are catching big call activity, and they're not my favorite names to play. Like I have had a hard time trying to play airlines and making money over the years. So hey, I could just be in a day trade because these names are catching so much momentum. Look at what this thing did today. Now I still think like my upside target for UAL is at 34.88. So I cut it at the end of the day. Why I don't need to be in an airline right now to risk for to stay in it overnight for another dollar move because that $35 is my ultimate target. But so I took this thing off 33.70. Yeah, so that's close enough. I mean, that's a really nice looking trade for the day. To make a nice percentage gain and like that, about 10%, for holding for a day trade. I'm the way I'm looking at that is for me, take it and go on to something else. I don't need to be in an airline for that. So again, it's all about like balancing to me like your greed and being sensible. Like, do you really want to own the airlines here for more than a day trade? Maybe you do. Maybe some really think that the airlines are good investments, but I don't. So, because they've underperformed for years. So again, that's the beauty right now of this market is that you can get involved in something like this, or like a Boeing, which saw nonstop call activity today. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And again, you don't have to love Boeing. You can get in it for 155 and the thing went up $20 today. Or you take a couple targets and if you want to leave the balance on so that you've locked in the targets. So again, really being basic here and not overthinking things, I think is the way to go. Could this continue to go up? I had a bunch of people ask me, show me the Boeing chart. So, could it rally more? It could. It took out one of these VPOCs. Where could it go? Maybe 189. But I just don't know, like, if something is going to jump off the page here and tell you that, could this thing continue to retrace some of this move? It absolutely could, because it's people are gravitating to these things because everything else has gone up. Why can't Boeing retrace more of this move? I don't have an answer for you. So, maybe this thing continues to retrace and rally further. I think that's fine having a shot on in this thing to see if it continues to go further up, considering that we're getting more and more news about things reopening, right? And maybe they get through to the 737. Maybe they start to get out of the woods at this point. But you could see it's got momentum now. So I would rather play this thing here because it is now starting. It is now moving up versus moving down. Right, and that's a big thing. Everybody always likes to try to time the bottom. I'm not someone who likes to try to time the bottom. It's got some momentum to it. Look at the volume. I think it's a better opportunity than where it was a couple weeks ago, even though the stock price is higher. Does that like? I think it takes a long. It's hard for people to get their arms around that if they're newer traders. I want to be participating in a name that's going up. And I know that Boeing, what's different about Boeing from the last couple weeks? Well, all through March and April and most of May, the price has been under the 5-day moving average, the 20-day moving average, and it's been below the 50-day moving average. What has changed since the end of May? Price has now retaken these things. It's a change in trend. Right? Do you see the difference? Because again, things can stay in a downtrend. So again, it's way below the 200-day moving average. But where's your stop price? If you were buying this thing underneath the 20-day moving average, where was your discipline in this? Where were you going to stop yourself out? If you want to go long Boeing now you've got something. You can use the 5-day moving average. You could use the top of value, and that's your point to get out of it. Right? In trading, it's all about being disciplined and having a place where you know that you can get out if the trade goes wrong, because no one has a crystal ball and knows where these stocks are going to go. You just manage your process and look for a signal, and you go from there. That's it. And by the way, all kinds of just continuous call buying in this name today. So we'll see if this continues. But I even though it was up 13% today, which is a whopper of a move, I would rather be trying to play this thing here than when this thing is going lower, right? We know that when the price is below the 20-day moving average, it's in a downtrend, a short-term downtrend. Next. Next. So you could see, by the way, not everything, did very well today. There was, biotech cooled off a little bit. Why do you think biotech cooled off a little bit? Because there's some profit taking going on. There's some rotation out of biotech. There's been so much money that has been put to work in biotech that there's no more buyers right now in biotech, right? People have made a ton of money in biotech and are taking profits and now going on to the next thing, right? So that's kind of how it works. And then what will probably happen, making a little bit of a prediction here, but biotech will probably digest the gains and so forth. And then when people are content with the moves that they've seen in some of the underperformers, then they will go back into the that's how it works. So what you do in these things, if you're a big biotech person, right? Some digestion after a big move is completely natural. Where would I like biotech? Where should I be setting an alert on biotech? Right around 106. And who knows? It could stay in this value area for a while. I have no idea how long this thing will stay in the value area, but 106 is the level to watch for me for continuation. And that's it. Set an alert and move on. Tesla. I wanted to give you this example on Tesla. Well, I'll just finish up talking about the rest of today's trades. What else did I catch? So the semiconductor move was everything that we wanted to see in this. I also like this clack, which was brought up by one of the TTG members. Right, so if you kind of miss some of the move in the semiconductors, this clack is just breaking out. Right, it's been kind of sideways. It's been moving the right way. Definitely for if you've been sitting in clack, it's worked. But now it's breaking out, and you got open road, no resistance ahead of you. So I did start a position. I didn't add to it at the end of the day. Here is my starter, because again, that's just how I kind of feel right now. Not putting on full size positions, but I started a position at 185. It closed perfectly, so I really like that move there. Also, if you want to take a shot at a name that does have overhead resistance and doesn't have open road, but still looks compelling, is Micron. We saw some call buying today. Notice it's had a lot of trouble with this 200-day moving average. Here was the first time it crossed under. It failed here once, twice, 3, 4. Maybe fifth time is the charm. Now, how would I play Micron? Now, I did not put a Micron trade on because I can't be in every trade, but I do think it's interesting. How would I play it? Very simply, go long versus 47.80 and see where this thing wants to go. Give it a chance at the top of value to see if fifth time is the charm. And where could this thing possibly go to? 57.81. There's a VPOC up there. Or see if there's anything on the 1 hour. Well, you got 53.44. So I don't know. Maybe I might play this thing tomorrow because it looks more and more interesting to me. But I'll tell you what. what's so easy about this trade, and I like easy setups. I like to keep it simple. You know that if it's not going to work and if it falls back into the value area, then you could take your easy stop, and you lose $1 on it, right? If it $1.30 if it breaks back into value, because again, I only want to play this thing if it's going to break out. If it's going to sit back and be range bound for a month, I don't want it. Why do I want to spend my time in something to prove I'm going to be right? So if it breaks, if it falls back into the 47 handle, you dump it. But I think it's compelling here, considering what a lot of the semiconductors are doing here, and it's also seeing call buying, right? People love that. People love call buying. 87.55 is where Qualcomm, which is interesting, actually finished in the red. Qualcomm was a name that also saw a lot of calls, but I did not see that it actually finished in the red. Made a big run up here in the first 15 minutes of the day. So I wanted to give you another example. People are always asking me, how do I use the value areas to trade? Right? Give me some examples about how you use this. Well, I just went through a Micron example, so that's one example. Here's another example. Tesla. If you're looking to trade this thing, because I see so many people are like, oh, Tesla's gonna take off. It's going to the moon. Well, first of all, let's look at the daily chart. Sorry, I'm being dramatic, but we talked about Tesla earlier in the week because it gave us a really nice trade for this thing, and I traded it and I got out of it on this green bar. But I like what's going on here, right? You got 2 inside days, which tells me that maybe there's going to be some continuation to the upside here. Now, what's nice about the value areas is I can basically just sit and relax with this thing. Why? Now, of course, something could happen overnight and Tesla could gap up. But let's just say for argument purposes that it opens up, maybe it opens up slightly positive for tomorrow. But use the 5-minute value area, which is the value area for the day. And I saw a whole bunch of people today, which is completely fine, trying to trade Tesla. Just wait until it breaks value. Right? We talked about the same thing last week in the trading room. Everybody was trying to trade Tesla last week. Wait till it breaks value. What are you missing? You're missing a couple bucks to wait for it to break out? Because once it broke out, it went. And notice also, this gave you the target for the week, which is the version point of control that it took out. And since then, it's done basically nothing. So again, I think this is a great name to keep on your radar. But unless you're trading this long term, and you're like, okay, I think it's eventually going to resolve itself higher, where are you going to position? You're going to sit in this thing for how long? Because the last time Tesla did this, it went sideways for about 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. So do I want to? So again, I don't know how long Tesla's going to sit here for, but do I want to sit in a trade, or some of you are trading short-term options? If you sit in a Tesla trade in a short-term option and it doesn't work, or it doesn't, sorry, not that it doesn't work, but it doesn't move, you know what happens. You get smoked. So wait until you get a signal. Now, again, just because it gets overvalued, it doesn't mean it's definitely going to get going, but I would rather trade this once I see some volume in the name and a move out of value. So for today, just makes it so simple. I set an alert at 897. It triggered on here. I looked at the chart and the price went right back into value. So what did I do? I reset the alert at 897, and I don't have to look at Tesla ever again for the rest. Sorry, not ever again. For the rest of the day, I wait till the alert goes off. You don't have to try to be smart and to outthink this market. 897, and then now we've got a new value area for tomorrow. So which is going to be a little bit lower than today's value area. But tomorrow's alert will be at 893. And if it doesn't go off, I look for other opportunities. And if it does go off at 893, then I will take a long position in it. Maybe stock, maybe calls, I'll figure it out tomorrow. But this is how you kind of scale your trading and not trade names that are bogged down. Now, again, I don't think Tesla is bogged down, and I don't know how long it sits in this range that it's, after it's kind of come out of here. But again, I don't want to sit in something that's going to do this. And especially, I'll reiterate it again. Some of you are so like, you guys only trade short-term options. So don't you want to, which again, it boggles my mind because I think trading short-term options is ridiculously hard. Um, but don't you want to wait until this thing starts to move first rather than you think you know? So anyway, I think it's a good example, and again, I'm spending a little bit more time here because I've gotten a lot of questions about how I use these value areas and how I use the market webs to trade, and again, by doing this type of exercise where I'm looking for pivot points, which is when a name starts to move above value, breaks out of a range, and being methodical about it, I avoid losing money by not sitting in some trades, and I can focus on some other things by scaling my trading. All right, guys. So that's it. The name of the game right now is to try to continue to play the trend. These are some names that saw option activity. Again, the option activity is super super hot right now, which if you're a contrarian, where'd the put call ratio? What did this finish at today? Yeah, 55. It's very low. So if you're a contrarian, that to you tells you that there's a lot of complacency in the market. Now we are seeing some index put buying too. And every time I post one of these big index blocks of puts, I always get the question, what do you think? What are they thinking? What do you think's going on? I'm thinking that the market, everybody is very complacent, that the market has been going up in a straight line. So people are starting to hedge. So again, you kind of have to think about that. This market doesn't normally go up in a straight line. It doesn't normally go down in a straight line. People will put trades on to kind of hedge themselves. Here, I put on a trade today too. Did it work? No. But at this point, I want a little bit of protection. All right, guys, I will leave it there for the night. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.